one point was on the phone to Stuart going, this is never going to happen. This is absolutely not going to open tomorrow night.
A loaded question. Could you give me a brief synopsis of Angels in America?
A brief synopsis?
It's a challenge.
Well, it's 7 hours of epic theatre about the state of America in the 1980s. It's about the AIDS crisis. It's about relationships. It's about belief. It's about myth and magic.
Because it's two plays, isn't it?
It is two plays, yes. It centres on a gay couple, Lewis and Pryor. He is diagnosed at the very beginning of the play with AIDS. Lewis leaves him. He can't cope. They're in the middle of a crisis, and Lewis is possibly the most self-centered character in the play. Pryor has to deal with this more or less by himself. The play takes on huge hallucinatory elements, some of which you're never quite sure whether it's to do with the disease, whether it's to do with the drugs that are being taken. But he is visited, famously at the end of the first play, by the Angel of America, who has come basically, somewhat confusingly, to give him a message that mankind's time is over unless they change, unless they progress. Lewis, the boyfriend, shacks up with a closeted gay Mormon who is married, and he is also just starting work for Roy Cohn, who is the only real-life character in the entire play. He was a politician, a lawyer. He was counsel to Joe McCarthy, Senator Joe McCarthy, who set up the communist witch hunts. So he was a Republican, and all these stories intertwine and interlink throughout the three and a half hours of the first play and 3.5 hours of the second play.
What made you choose Angels in America?
I'd done quite a few plays at Putney up to that point. Stuart Watson was just starting off as the new artistic director. I must admit, when I sat in the pub with him and said, I'd quite like to do Angels in America, I thought he was going to say no. But yeah, Stuart likes a bit of a challenge, so I was delighted that he said yes. I'd seen the plays in 1993, 1994 when they opened at the Cottesloe Theatre. And I think it's because they opened there in the National Studio space that I felt that they would fit on our stage, basically. Because although they're very big plays, they're also quite intimate in their relationships and their storylines as well. I don't think you ever really get more than 3 characters on stage at any given point.
So you've been given the green light, for better or worse, perhaps from Stuart, to do not just 1 but 2 productions. How do you start preparing for months ahead?
I had about a year to prepare for them, which was just as well. I knew it was going to be difficult technically. Luckily, Stuart had already been working with Andy Chamberlain and his team of brilliant set builders from Imperial College, and it's exactly the sort of challenge that Andy really likes. You've got to fly an angel in at the end of Act 1, you have burning books, you have huge burning books, you have these hallucinatory scenes, and you've got to keep the play moving fast. So in the end, we all came up with this idea of having 8 6-foot, 7-foot screens, basically, which could be moved around the stage. And these screens, which were transparent, could be lit from behind, lit from front, so they could change colour. They all became they set the scene for each moment in the play. It was tricky at first. These were big. They were quite lumbering. Initially, Andy wanted them so that they could open up, so that people could step through them as well and enter into a scene that way. This was one of the many things that kind of fell to the wayside along the way. It really was a journey from the moment we started rehearsing right up to the tech for the first production. We learnt a lot about what you can and can't do.
What were the challenges that you faced?
Apart from working with the actors on a very, very dense and complex script, it really is the technical side of it. Several of the actors also are playing 3-4 roles as well. So it's that constant thing, as everybody at Putney knows, of actually getting off stage, getting into a new costume, getting back on again really fast. And then we were tying this all in more or less with an almost ongoing score throughout the play as well. I mean, music tended to underscore almost every scene. So I think we had something like probably over 200 sound effects just in the first half, and even more lighting effects, which thanks to Martin Jessup, of course. I think it proved far more difficult in that first play than any of us actually ever realized it would be. I think by the tech, we got to about 2/3 of the way through it when we got to 11:30, and one of the biggest technical things, which was a 8-foot Bible that had to be wheeled on, open up, burst into flames. I think it was wheeled on, it began to open, I heard someone go, oops, and the entire mechanism that was supposed to open this thing just completely broke. This was about 11:30 at night. We still had quite a way to go. Stress levels were very high at that point, but luckily the team spirit thing kicked in again. Rufus Kipper, who was in it, good handyman, he bodged it all back together again, and off we went. I think I was at one point was on the phone to Stuart going, this is never going to happen. This is absolutely not going to open tomorrow night. But it did.
How did you get the angel to descend from the sky?
Well, we can't fly anybody in at Putney. That was always going to be a problem. So Andy basically built like a seesaw lever out of scaffolding. Huge thing. It was about 10 foot high. We had it at the back of the stage behind the blacks. And basically Molly, our angel, would stand on it at the front. And then we'd have 3 of our actors and stage management crew would basically grab the handle, which is up in the air, 10 foot up in the air at the back, pull it down. So as that came down, she went up in the air and came through the curtains at the back, and then could be lowered down onto the ground as well, with actors behind her hanging onto it desperately. But from the front, it was very, very effective. It was a very dramatic entrance that she always made every night.
It is written into the piece, and I guess it's testament to amateur theatre, community theatre, that you still did it. Mostly, you was tempted to do it because we don't have the luxury of the money or the resources or the team of experts. I guess. I mean, I'm sure you did your research, but it's rather than saying these are our limits, let's not go over them. You decided to well, no, let's see how far we can go to achieve something amazing.
I'm a great believer that a good community theatre can do anything they actually set their minds to. There is always a way. That's what theatre is. If you can put it on stage, we can find a way to do it. And Angels was certainly possibly the biggest example I've seen of that at Putney. It was certainly a play which I think a lot of amateur groups would go, yeah, I'd love to do it, but how on earth do you? And we were at a point and we had the right people around us that we could really rise to that challenge. So, yeah.
One play seems like, I'm retiring now for at least a year, but you've got to go back again in a few months' time and do another production. And you've also got to try and hopefully keep the same cast and crew.
Yeah. We always knew it was going to be a big ask, and that it was going to be in 2 parts. Although I always wanted my initial cast, very obviously I wanted them to come back, I knew I couldn't necessarily guarantee it. Life changes, people have different things going on. It was such an important thing to the actors, and to me and to everyone, that the thought of somebody else coming in and taking over your role was enough to make those that were kind of possibly shaking about it go, yeah, okay, no, yeah, I'll do it.
You never wanted to do them back to back or side by side like they're kind of done traditionally now?
We just couldn't do it. It's 7 hours of theatre, and I just don't think we have the right basically to take up that amount of time at that point. We made a decision very early on, do part one. We definitely will do part two, but do it separately. And I think just for the sake of the actors as well, because we'd have had to have doubled the rehearsal time. And I think it would have been too much. It would have been too pressurized. The first half was difficult enough.
What are your feelings now, looking back, 10 years on from Angels America? How do you feel?
God. Well, as you can see, it still has a profound effect on me. These are not actually the wings we use. They're very similar. The actual wings are underneath this bed, gathering dust, but I still have them, all signed by the cast.
They come out after a few drinks, just like...
Yeah, possibly, and put them on and run around the house, and yeah. No, it had a profound effect on me and on what I felt as a director I was able to do. And I certainly know for the actors, it's always probably the play that they will remember being involved in more than any other. There's nothing else like it, really. There's no play that I can think of which has that same emotional reach and continuous relevance and just humanity. Angels, I think, is probably the greatest plays of the 20th century, simply for its scope, its ambition, its humanity, everything it has to say, and the fact that still resonates today. A lot of people might go, oh, it's about AIDS, that's not important. I think it's always been important, and I think the situation we're in now makes it even more important. Humanity is fragile, and yet also very, very strong. And that's probably the greatest message of the play, is that whatever happens, we can survive it as a human race, with each other. We need to be together, or we need to be free to be who we are. It's understanding who you are and what you need and the needs of other people. It's a very strong theme of the play, and I think it resonates very strongly now. I think Angels is one of the few that I would actually actively possibly think about doing again at some point. Who knows? There's so much in it. It's such a rich piece of writing. I think we did an incredible production that we can all be really proud of. But like any good play, it's probably never definitively done. You'll always find something new in it, and yeah, maybe one day I'd quite like to find something new.
That's on camera now, so you've kind of got to hold your words right now.
Yeah.